Hello everyone, I'm Susan Lee McDonald and welcome back to my show, The Interview. Comedy. Regardless of nationality or age, we all love to laugh. And whether we like slapstick or stand-up comedy, it's so important to make sure that you laugh at some point of the day. Laughter is the best medicine after all. Today's guest is none other than Danny Cho. He's a highly sought-after stand-up comedian based in the States, but he's traveling internationally to do some really funny stuff. Now, whether you like him or hate him, you're definitely not going to forget him. So, come with me as I interview Danny Cho. A stand-up comedian, writer, and performer, Danny Cho. With his popularity growing in Hollywood, this amazing Korean-American stand-up comedian won a prestigious competition in LA and has made multiple appearances on Mad TV on Fox. The web-based series KTown Cowboys, written by the comedian himself, even won Best First Feature at the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival in 2010. An icon of creativity whose golden touch of making people laugh and think, Danny Cho. Hey Danny, thanks so much for being on The Interview. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
It's my pleasure. Pleasure.
Welcome back to Korea.
It's been a crazy time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what brings you back to Korea this time?
Well, I mean, I came just to kind of, visit some friends, but also, do some shows, make sure that the small amount of fans I have out here, know that I'm still kicking. So yeah. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's so great to have you here. I know that you recently did a show here in Seoul and also in Busan. So what was that like?
It was weird because the shows in Seoul, they're all Korean Americans or Korean comedians, Korean Canadians, and so their laughter, their reactions were like, like very not energetic, and I hated that. But but the Busan shows, they're all just, they're mostly, like white folks from different parts of the world, and they understand comedy, and they had a good time. So I think everyone had a good time, hopefully. But if not, then oh well, they paid. So,
you got paid anyway.
Yeah. I was like, checks in my pocket, whatever. So.
Too funny. Well, you're a little too humble. You have quite a following, not only here in Korea, but back stateside. You've got your internet show, you've got the KTown Cowboys, you've got the podcast, the It episode.
Yes.
I can't say it on the television.
It's a podcast. Search Danny Cho on iTunes.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
And a lot of people just love your kind of irreverent style of comedy.
I don't know if irreverent is the right word to describe it. I'm just gonna call it I'm a dirty man. I'm a filthy man. I just say whatever I want to say. You know what I mean? And I think comedy, it's not. Comedy is something that you should just, whatever you are, like whatever your style is. There's some like Koreans here. They have a lot of slapstick stuff. And
yes.
To me, it feels like Three Stooges. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in Korea they call it like 개그, right?
Yeah, 몸개그, you know? And so I'm like, when I see that, I'm like, that's not my style. Well, I mean, it's funny sometimes, but, that's not me. I'm just the guy that likes to tell whatever's on my mind,
So, if you can educate most of us who may not be familiar with the kind of theory behind comedy or the different types of comedy. You mentioned earlier the Korean style of slapstick, and you're a stand-up comedian, and you do so many more things aside from being a comedian. Can you educate us on what types of comedy are out there and what you do specifically?
Well, I mean, what I do specifically is stand-up comedy. It's the Korean culture, they don't really have it. I mean, they have a talk concert, which is kind of like a stand-up comedy. So it's a monologue, it's a monologist that can get up on stage, and whether it's one-liner jokes, whether it's like a story, whether it's a speech, whether it's a political point. But there's also physical comics, stand-up comics that move around, and you know what I mean. And so, it's just a real show with one dude and one mic. You know what I mean? And that's what stand-up comedy is. You know, but then there was, you know, like slapstick. There's like improv. You know, improv is, you know, usually as a troupe, and then you get, you know, they try to quote unquote, you know, think of stuff on the spot. You know, and some, but I'm gonna be honest, not all of it's, you know, really off the top of the head, but you know, a lot of it is, and so it's more, that's more of an acting base, you know, and yeah, those are the three I can really think of in terms of performance-wise, you know.
And you feel most comfortable with stand-up comedy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a few people might have been wondering, how is Susan going to be able to interview Danny and keep it clean enough for broadcasting? Because you're not known for being necessarily, you know, PG-13.
I'm not, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's an over 19 crowd, over 18 crowd, and can I ask you to kind of behave today during the interview?
I will. They said, Danny, you know, be good. And, you know I'm familiar with the Arirang folks. And so I'm going to hold it in. You know what I mean? But I'll be funny. I'll try to be funny.
You always are.
Yeah.
And I think that what's great about you, Danny, and I've been a fan of yours for a while now, is that you have kind of a message behind what you joke about, and it's not just about the filth and the offensive jokes, and that's your method, it seems, to kind of get your point across. No?
Well, I mean, you know, that's the stuff, the comics that I really respect, they always had a point, you know, and, you know, my sister in the beginning, she was like, "Oppa, you're so dirty on stage," right? Now, and I said, "Okay, Grace, I want you to strip out all the bad words. I want you to strip out all the dirty things I talk about, and really try to understand what I'm trying to say." And some of these jokes, I mean, some of them are just dirty for the sake of being dirty. I'm not going to pretend like it's something smart, but ultimately, I think, you know, whatever the point is, you know, whether or not you disagree with or not, I feel like I can. It's something that I want to do, you know, and it's something that I don't want to be a preacher, you know, but I have a message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long have you been a comedian, and why did you choose stand-up?
Well, I mean, you know, there's two answers for that. The first time I did stand-up was in the summer of 2000. Okay. And that's 13 years now, right?
And that was when you were how old? I
was 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very young.
Yeah. What happened was I got dared by a friend, and they were like, "Hey, you're funny, but you can't do it on stage." And you know, when you're 18 and you're a guy and your hormones are like just riled up.
Well, I wouldn't know because I'm not a guy.
But you have
hormones.
I would guess. You have hormones, right?
Yes.
Like you'd be like, "Hey, you see that guy? Why don't you go hit on him?" I bet you can't hit on him. You know, I bet you can't seduce him. I bet you'd be like, "Shh, girl," right? Right. So exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so I did that, and I was like, "All right, you pick a spot. I'll go up on stage." And they picked up a spot. It was an open mic night in the hood. And it was funny because I was planning to do like jokes.
Okay.
And when I got on stage, a lady in the front of African American descent was like, "Oh, he Chinese, you know, he ain't funny." Right? That's what he said to me, you know. Yeah, and so I made fun of her for 20 minutes. Yeah, I just really made fun of her appearance, her style, her fashion, everything. And
everyone else laughed?
Everyone was dying. They were like, "Wow, this guy is crazy."
And what did she say?
And she couldn't say anything because everyone was just laughing. You know what I mean? And like, you know, because she had like really ashy knees. You know what I mean? And I was like, "How dare you wear a skirt with ashy knees?" You know what I'm saying? Like you look like you're on a chalkboard.
So for people who may not know what ashy knees are, it's just like dry knees.
Yeah, yeah.
Really dry.
Like, you know, if you don't wear lotion and you go like this, and you see your fingernail marks, you ashy. You know what I'm saying? So, but you know, yeah, she's very ashy, and I just made fun of her teeth, her hairstyle, her body. I just totally deconstructed her, and
ouch.
And
I wouldn't want to be your enemy.
I know, that's why you better be nice.
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Talk
am.
about all
I'm
this
trying
sparkly
really.
stuff right now. Anyway,
It's just for you.
Oh, girl, it's sexy. Now, so what happened was, long story short, I won. There was a contest. I won the prize.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I got bit by the comedy bug. And so throughout college, I was doing stand-up. But it wasn't a full-time gig, you know. It was kind of like oh, like, oh, I'm having an open mic night here, or I got a gig at the comedy club, I got to go there. And yeah, that's how it started. But the next answer is, I don't believe you can call yourself something unless that pays the bills.
Unless that's your main job?
Yes. Because there's people that are, oh, I'm an actor, but then they're a waiter to pay the bills. And you're a waiter, dude. You're not an actor. You know what I mean? And so, so I quit my job. I used to be a business consultant after college, and then I quit in 2006.
Wow.
So then till now, I've been doing stand-up full time.
I'm glad you have done that for the past number of years, because the world would be minus one really funny guy.
That's sweet of you. A lot of I have some what do you call it, anti-fans that would say otherwise, and which is fine.
Yeah, I'm sure I have them too, but you can't please everyone.
Yeah, I don't care if they don't like me or not. Yeah.
A Korean-American stand-up comedian who's funny, smart, and candid. Danny Cho.
This is so bad. You know what a una is? A una is when you see a girl from afar and you're like, ooh, but when you're close, you're like, nah. And there's a lot of unas in Itaewon, man. In Korea, for example. I was at Karosugil, and I saw some girls. They look like plastic face monsters, And I look at them, and they were cute. They had that they had the cute walk. And they were walking, and we saw a Porsche 911 Best Buy. And one of them looked to her friend and was like, 저거 옛날 모델이야. And I'm like, you're walking, stupid. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're walking. Really? Really? Oh, I hope you kill yourself.
How do you maintain that type of confidence that you need to keep yourself going? I mean, I imagine that it can be a really vulnerable thing to be on stage and to say these jokes. You've got some people laughing, you've got some people criticizing you, and this is for any comedian, not just you. How do you maintain that assuredness that can keep you going?
Don't do it for anybody else but you. You know what I mean? Like, again, if you're gonna work for laughs, you know what I mean? Then do it because, be you. You know what I mean? Don't be someone else, but be you. Be yourself. And if you have the fortitude and you have the understanding that you are talented or you are funny, then that's it.
Have you had people walk out on you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's fine. You know what I mean? In the beginning, it hurt. I want everyone to love me. You did it because you wanted the attention. You wanted the fans to be, or the audience members to be like, hey, this guy's funny. But at this point, I accept the fact that you can't please everybody. And so that's where I'm at. Like, I can alter it as much as I can, but ultimately, I'm not doing it for the audience members. I'm doing it for me. It's a very selfish way to think about it, but I love stand-up to a point where it's kind of like therapy for me. Most people pay money to be like, oh, these are my problems. I have girlfriend problems or whatever. But I talk about my girlfriend problems on stage.
And you get paid for it.
Yeah.
So you get paid for your therapy. That's not a bad business to be in.
Yeah. And I like to talk, and I have a lot of, things about life that I don't like and people that I don't like, or things, you know what I mean? Like, like people when they do dumb things, but everyone kind of looks past it. I'm like, why are we looking past this? And
I'm curious what the main topics of your kind of routine consist of. I've been to your show before and I've seen you a lot on YouTube and whatnot, but for those that may not be familiar with your work, what are the main topics?
Well, I wouldn't say that I have specific topics, like whatever I find funny. Like, there's sometimes I'll be like, oh, dude, I hate certain people. You know what I mean? So I'll write about it. You know what I mean? Like when in social media, like Facebook, and there's girls that put pictures, self or selka pictures, and be like, I know I look ugly in this, but ... and then all our dumb friends go, oh, you're gorgeous, because they want the attention. You know what I mean? And that just makes me insane. You know what I mean? It just drives me crazy.
To Danny Cho, the stage isn't just a place to perform jokes. For him, it's a refuge, therapy session, and workplace rolled up all into one.
Comedians are, in my opinion, I think you have to be kind of smart to be a stand-up comic.
I agree with that. You have to be so quick, right?
Now, a friend has a joke about this, and I'm not going to ruin the joke, but basically he's saying that smart people are the most mad people. Do you know what I mean?
Mad as in angry or crazy?
Angry and just depressed and crazy. And dumb people are actually happy. Do you know what I mean? Imagine if you, okay, think about it. If you learn something that amazed you every day, then you'd always be happy. Because you're dumb, you don't know anything, and be like, oh, 1 + 1 is 2? What? Awesome, right? But then the smart person's like, it's too stupid. You know what I mean? So it's always, you have a negative kind of, you know,
I think I'm dumb then. Because I tend to be pretty happy.
I didn't say it. Agree with it. I'm not, you're a genius. You're a genius to have an interview with me. You know, with you look gracious. I don't know. I think you should be the star. I don't know why you're. I look at. I didn't even iron. I didn't even iron today. I was like, what? $2 to iron? I just shit. You crazy? So I said, yeah, whatever. Yeah.
So smart people tend to be depressed, in your opinion?
I mean, I think most comics are depressed. You know what I mean? And you know what? The thing about what people think is that the job itself is to be on stage and be funny, which is cool, right? But they don't understand the other aspects of it. Like if I'm traveling, you know, like in Korean style, you have, even if you're a solo artist, you have a driver, you have a manager, you have a stylist, you know, you have a team behind you that'll go to your show in the middle of nowhere, in the shigors of Korea, you know what I mean, and perform for like 5 harmonies, right? But for me, I don't have all that, you know what I mean? So I'm traveling the US or the world or whatever, you know, by myself, and you're in the middle of nowhere renting your car and you're driving and you're talking, and it gets tiring, it gets lonely, you know what I'm saying? And so it is a more depressing, you know what I'm saying?
So how do you deal with the loneliness or the stress or the depression? Am I to assume that you're also saying that sometimes you're depressed?
Of course, yeah. But you know, that's the thing, is you know, when people always want to find happiness, right? Like in my mind, the reason why people can't find happiness is because 1, they want it all the time. It's impossible to be happy all the time, right? And 2, it's a lot of people have these checklists of what will make them happy. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to make this much money. I want to have this job. I want to have this house. I want to have this friends. I want my wife to look like this, cook like this, blah, 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 blah. Even if you hit it all, you're not going to be happy. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I have to take a step back and be like, look, I'm doing something that a lot of people will kill to do. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's true.
You know, and be, you know, I'm not famous or whatever. I don't have a crazy resume, but I know a lot of comics that aren't even close to my resume, which isn't even that good. You know what I'm saying? So instead of,
humble.
Yeah, well, it's not that good, trust me. But if you, instead of looking at the end goal, I mean, you should have an end goal, but instead of looking at the end goal, I say, enjoy that ride. You know what I mean? Just look around and be like, hey, it can be worse.
While a comedian like him is funny on and off stage, he also has his serious side.
Okay. I'm sorry, I can't drink. I really did.
He's had his shares of ups and downs, and that's why he tells people to simply enjoy the roller coaster ride that we call life.
1 drink. Okay. Yeah, dude. 5?
Oh my God, 5? Okay. Heavy drinker. Oh my God, heavy drinker. Whoa.
You know, I really am curious about how it is that you have that kind of keen eye to take from whatever situation what's funny. Was this something that you were born with? Like, is there someone in your family that's really funny or really direct? Did you see some potential as you were, you know, growing up as a comedian? Or?
I think my mom, she's a funny lady, you know?
Yeah.
Like every time I call her, she always makes me laugh. But you know, it's not that we laugh together. Most of the time I laugh at her, what she says. Like recently she called me, or I called her when I was out here, and I said, Mom, you know, I'm gonna be back soon. And she goes, you know, well, in Korea. And she said, well, you should hurry up and find a wife over in Korea. And I was like, well, a lot of these girls, they're gold diggers, you know. And then she goes, okay, then make a lot of money. Right. Instead of going, find the girl that is not a gold digger. She's like, make a lot of money. What's the problem? Stupid. That's what she told me, and I was like, thanks for the support, Mom. She's like, who would marry you for your looks, stupid? You know what I mean? Don't awe me. Come on, this is not a fall in love with face or body. Aww. You know, I'm aware of that.
Changing topics a little bit. What's your most memorable show so far?
You know, I would say that a lot of shows that I've done, there's a lot, you know, I mean, from doing shows for Army bases and, you know, like I made a promise to a few friends that, you know, fought in the war, and some of them didn't come back, you know, they died in the war. And they all, I mean, it's sad, but, you know, it happened, you know, and so to them, you know, before they left, they promised me, if you have a chance to perform, you should, you know, come out. And I was like, yeah, of course. And I realized that when I talk to the soldiers on these bases, this is a stress that, you know, like everyone goes, oh, I'm stressed out. You know what I mean? All the camera people and all the directors and editors, oh, I'm stressed out because I can't, you know, make this sync right. But that's a different type of stress to, am I going to get shot and die today? Stress. Do you know what I mean? And so for those soldiers, that's what they have to think about every day, is today my last day? You know what I mean? And so with all that kind of stress, you know, I figure at least for an hour or 2 hours that I'm out there to do a show, that'll give them a taste of home. That'll make them forget about, this dude right here might be strapped with the life vest filled with bombs. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I think it's something, it's not like I'm changing the world or whatever, but if I can and I can help just a little bit doing what I do, of course I'll do it, you know.
So do you try to get a layout of the types of people that are coming to your show, or do you just normally have a set routine and you just kind of go with it?
I usually kind of just like sit and, you know, outside, because, you know, people don't know who I am most of the time, so I just kind of look, you know, and be like, okay, it's these types of people. And I go in, and I don't really have like an order, you know, so yeah.
I imagine that not all audiences are created equally, and once you gauge the audience, I'm wondering if you kind of alter your jokes to make more of a point or drill a message home even more.
Well, you know, I think what people fail to understand is that comedy is very subjective. Do you know what I mean? Like, you and I might have very different tastes in comedy. Your favorite sitcom might be completely different from mine, right? Same thing with stand-up comedy. Let's say there's 150 people here, right? Not all of them are gonna like what I'm gonna say.
You know, it's not easy to please everyone. You can't make everyone happy, but you've made enough people happy to get onto commercials and other kinds of television. So tell me about how it is that you became slightly more well-known and popular.
Well, you know what? There's a comedian. He's kind of like my older brother in this business. The Koreans call them 선배s, right? And his name is Bobby Lee. He's a comedian. He was on Mad TV and many movies. Oh, yeah. And Bobby, he looked at me and he goes, Danny, there's two types of people that get on TV. Really good-looking people and dudes that look like mutants. And you look like a mutant.
Oh my gosh,
right.
That's harsh.
And I was like, thanks. And so he called me for a episode of Mad TV and for a sketch. And he goes, Danny, I need someone fat and dumb looking. And I was like, okay, what time you need me there? so I went, and we were hanging outside during break time. He goes, hey, you have an agent? And I was like, no. So he called the commercial agent, his friend, and he goes, hey, we got this guy, got a big face, he's fat, but he's like weirdly agile looking, you know? And so
weirdly agile.
Yeah, so I went to the offices and I didn't have headshots, I didn't have anything. And the agent went, you're perfect. And so, you know, I mean, yeah, so I went in and within 6 months I booked my first national commercial.
What was that?
It was a Super Bowl commercial for a beer company. Yeah, and so it was weird, you know what I mean? Like the first commercial I got, and
Super Bowl, like that's the most heavily watched show at any given point, and the commercials are the most watched.
Yeah, the highlights.
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
and so I mean, you know, companies pay like $2-3 million to put one commercial on the Super Bowl, you know, like time slots.
So did you make bank on that commercial?
Oh, I got girls coming to me. Oppa, you're so famous. Can I get dinner, papasacho? Right. So, you know, I had to weed out the gold diggers. Yeah.
So after that commercial, what other commercials did you do?
I've done commercials for cell phone companies like Sprint, T-Mobile. I've done Bank of America commercials. I've done a State Farm commercial, NFL Network. I've done a handful, you know.
And so what would they have you do? Were you supposed to be the funny guy? Were you supposed to be the mutant guy, as you said earlier? Or
I think you know, legitimately, I am funny looking. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, okay, there was one commercial that I auditioned, right? It was for GoDaddy, and GoDaddy, you know,
the website company,
thing,
yeah.
right? And they go, can you stick your stomach in and then stick it out? That was my audition, right? And I went, really? And I was like, yeah. So I stuck it in and I stuck it out, and the person was like, perfect. You know what I mean? And I was like, yo, they gave me money for that.
Wow.
Yeah. So you know, thank you. Don't tell me too much, but so because of my stomach. So.
In the US, he's not only famous as a stand-up comedian, he has appeared in a number of TV commercials and owes his success to his unique appearance.
Danny, it seems like you were kind of born to be a comedian. When did you realize that this is your path? Or maybe I should ask you, did you see yourself as a child being really funny? Like, did you get any good reactions from your family?
There was one story where when I was about 3, and you see this forehead, like the start of the forehead, that was since birth. In the middle, that's missing. That's stress and that's bad living. But I've always had a big forehead, right?
Yeah.
And my komo, my aunt, she was always like, oh no, you know, you're gonna be bald, you know, 나 대머리 될 거야, right? And my aunt, she had really bad acne scars. And at 3, I looked at her and I said, 고모는 하느님이 포크 갖고 얼굴 찔른 것 같아요, right? And she got really shocked because a 3-year-old just dissed her really bad, right?
Oh no.
And so my parents whooped me. They just whooped me. And then on the way back home, my dad looked back and was like, 잘했어, right? And I was like, 그럼 왜 때려, right? Why did you hit me, right? But then I knew that it wasn't really comedy. It was that I was really good at offending people. And I think that's what got me by all the way through here, is that I'm good at offending people if I wanted to.
Yeah.
You know? And I
So
haven't
you're
been able to.
natural at it.
I'm naturally a bad person. Yeah.
So at a young age, you knew that you had a quick wit and were able to, as you say, be offensive, but be funny also. And you also were quite talented in a number of things. You were a good student, you did Taekwondo, right? So tell me about the martial arts aspect. Is that something that you really did, or are you saying that to be funny now?
I was amazing.
Really?
You know what it is that given that I grew up in a really rough neighborhood, and when I was a kid, I saw Bruce Lee movies, you know what I mean? And I was like, I want to be that guy, because that guy is cool. You know, that guy kind of looks like me, and he's cool, and nobody messes with him. And, you know, my neighbor's bad, and I got into fights all the time as a kid. And so my parents enrolled me to do Taekwondo when I was 4. And
Young age.
I didn't stop till I was 22.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so...
Why did you stop?
Well, I mean, I got into a car accident and I couldn't really compete anymore. But you know what I mean? Like, the reason why I did it for so long is because at first it was kind of like I wanted to be Bruce Lee. And then it became boring, really. And I didn't want to do it. But my dad was like, you know, well, Korean, he said, 남자는 칼을 뽑으면 피를 봐야 돼, right? So meaning like, don't give up, right? Until you see to the very end of it, you know? And so my goal was to, you know, go to nationals and win. And I won.
did.
And I won nationals. And so, you know,
Awesome.
I kind of, well, I was awesome. And then I got in a car accident, and the doctor said you shouldn't really compete anymore. And so the reason why I stopped like doing Taekwondo was because the competition was fun, and it was not really to beat other people, but it was the like the physical aspect of it. It was a mental game. Do you know what I mean? It was like, oh, if I do this move, then this guy's gonna do that move, and I'm gonna counter with that move, and it was like mental chess, and that's why I like it, and that's why still when I watch boxing or I watch MMA, people see the brutality. Oh, look at that knockout! That's a crazy knockout. But for me, I always see it as, oh, there's that opening. He shouldn't have opened it. He should have, whatever.
So you see it from a kind of strategic point of view.
Yeah, and that's why it's so interesting to me. And not only did I do Taekwondo, I did judo, jiu-jitsu, hapkido, and kendo. So
what degrees were you of these different disciplines?
I was a 4th degree black belt in
Wow.
Taekwondo, 3rd degree in hapkido, 1st degree in kendo, 1st degree in jiu-jitsu and judo.
If I may be a little blunt here, you don't necessarily look like someone who did martial arts.
When I told Bobby that, I was like, Bobby.
I wasn't sure if you were actually kidding that you actually did Taekwondo because...
I beat everybody in this room, for sure, girls included. No. But what it is that after the car accident, I actually, like when you work out and you work out hard and train hard, like you eat a lot because you burn a lot of calories.
Yep.
Well, I stopped training, but I ate the same way.
Ah.
You know what I'm saying? So I actually gained 100 pounds in 4 years.
Oh my goodness.
Was that 45 kilos around
Okay.
there? So yeah, I mean, I ballooned up.
Wow. You went down the path of doing, college studies and whatnot, but from what I understand, you got into some pretty great, Ivy League schools, but you chose to stay in Los Angeles and go to UCLA. Why is that?
I'm a guy, and most important thing is girls, right? And at the time, all the colleges I got accepted to, UCLA had the prettiest girls. You know what I mean? You know why?
I mean, are you serious? You really went to UCLA just because of the pretty girls there?
Of course. God is fair. Right? If you're way too smart, then the other thing, right? So, but on top of that, it's it's in LA, so friends and family, Hollywood. What else is there? Food, weather.
When you were at UCLA, you majored in economics. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And why did you decide to major in economics?
Well, like every Korean parent, my mom wanted me to be a doctor. So I went in pre-med.
Okay.
And after 3 years, 2 years of it, I realized I don't want to study anymore. Like really, like it just didn't make sense to me. Like you're out of debt at 45. You know what I mean? That doesn't make sense to me, right? So I said, okay, Mom, I'm not gonna do that. And my mom was like, why are you not doing well in school? And I was like, no, I'm getting a 4.0. But it's because I'm a really good cheater, and so I would flirt with the ugly girls in school.
Yeah.
In the class.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones in the front, no touch up, right? So so I decided to go to pre-law, and then I was like, wow, this is a lot of reading. I don't want to read that much. So I decided to do the closest thing to business, and that was economics and accounting. So. And
then from UCLA, you went straight not into comedy, but you went into a consulting gig. Is that right?
Yeah, I worked, did valuation consulting, and.
Okay. I mean, I'm just trying to imagine you working in a suit, going at 7 or 8 in the morning, working super long hours as a consultant. I mean, that's just a really hard thing to kind of picture in my head, looking at you now.
Honestly, like I enjoyed the work. It was really cool. I learned a lot. I worked on a lot of cool projects. I worked on the Singular AT&T merger back home, and so I got to stay, in Seattle for the summer, which is awesome. I had a great time, great coworkers, but I realized that if I didn't do stand-up, like if I didn't go full time, I would never know how it feels. And this is an itch I needed to scratch. And I didn't want to be 40 with my kids going, "Daddy, isn't he funny?" Yeah, I'd be like, no, not
You know,
really.
it takes a lot of guts to switch careers like that. I mean, that's a drastic change. It's not going from consulting to, I don't know, management consulting, right? Like, you didn't choose the business school route and think about what you're going to do with your life. You went to a completely different field.
Yeah.
Are you ever regretting that decision that you made?
I mean, if I say I didn't regret it, that'd be a lie. Because, like, sometimes you as a human being, there's a bit of stability that you miss. In this business, you're not stable. I mean, I went from making 6 figures a year to the first month when I quit my job, I made $60. It was a shock, and it was like if you can't think like this, but I can always think like if I still had that job with all the raises and bonuses, I'd be at least making $500,000 a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not, and so, but again, money isn't everything, but it really does help. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, money isn't everything, but really, ramen doesn't taste good all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you want steak.
But you're not eating ramen every day.
Of course not.
I mean, maybe in the beginning when you're getting started. But
there's one time where I was so hungry and I had nothing in the house, and I looked at the fridge and there I saw ice cubes, and I looked in the bottom of the fridge and I saw some bread. Have you ever had an ice cube sandwich?
I can't say that I have. No.
But that's what I had. I had it before because I was like that poor.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, doing this, and I'm not, and I'm a guy, and I have the pride. I'm not gonna be like, well, Mom and Dad, please help me out, because if I did, then they'd be like, you stupid, why did you quit your job, idiot, right? So I don't want to hear that, because Korean moms are the world professionals at nagging. You know what I'm saying? They are the best at nagging.
Yeah, I mean, I love my mom too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. When are you getting married? How come you're so fat? How come you're so short? How you shave? Your hair falling apart. I was like, whoa, hi, happy Mother's Day, Mom.
You must have gotten a lot of grief from your mom when you quit your job at consulting.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you handle that?
How did I handle it? You know what I told my parents is that they came to the United States in the late 70s, and they busted their tails off to make sure that my sister and I get to do what makes us happy. Now, their belief is that stability and money equals happiness. And I'm like, no, happiness is something else. And I'm doing what I'm doing, and it makes me happy. And ultimately, you succeeded in completing your goal, And I know you're worried, but honestly, you can be 50, and if your mom's still alive, you're still your mom's little baby, right?
Yeah.
And so they're not going to change that. But I just take it as it's because they love us. You know what I mean? So yeah.
What do your parents think now? Have you asked your parents?
Oh, they still hate it. You know what I'm saying? My mom could see this and be like, "Uri ada tasa?" No way, dude. They'll be, heck no, dude. No way. They'll just be like, you know what I mean? Like that's what my mom thinks. Is it to her? It's like she sees my life and it's not stable.
One day, he decided to quit his job that brought him financial stability in order to pursue his passion, comedy. Although this meant he'd sometimes struggle to make ends meet, he has had no regrets because he's living his dream.
Why do you continue to pursue comedy?
Because I love it. Because I like it. I love and like. It's the same thing, really. You know what I mean? Well, like is the first 3 months of a relationship, right? Like is, I like to be around this person all the time. Her stories are fantastic. She smells nice. She always looks nice. Love is after the 3 months, right? When you don't always want to be next to her. She doesn't always look nice, right? She doesn't always, she's not always sweet. But you have to stay because you have to be selfless because you love her, right? So you know what I mean? Like when people go, oh, it's good to be in love. No, it's not. It's not.
Why do you
Because
say
being
that?
selfless is going, I gotta do this because I have to, because I love her, right? No guy wants to buy her chick flowers. Do you know what I'm saying? But I love her and I want to make this girl smile because if not, she's gonna give me hell. So that's love. You know what I mean?
And that's how you feel about comedy?
Yeah, meaning that I'm willing to give everything I got. I am willing to die on stage if I have to for this art because I love it.
Danny, do you plan on being a stand-up comedian for the rest of your life, or do you have some other plans as well?
I want to be doing stand-up for the rest of my life. You know, it's my first love, you know, and you can't quit your first love, you know. But you know, that's not all I want to do. I think ultimately, you know, I want to get involved in the creation aspect of it in terms of producing, writing, and you know, I've been doing a little bit of that with the KTown Cowboys series and stuff like that. So, you know what? Ultimately, what I love about what I do is the creation and the seeing of that creation unfold, whether it's through a joke, a movie, a YouTube skit, you know, a podcast, whatever it is. So, yeah.
And I hear that you are involved in a film project as a writer. Am I right?
Yeah, actually, well, 3 years ago I did a webisode series called KTown Cowboys. And, you know, there's a story about a bunch of guys being guys. And it was played by my friends who are actors or in the entertainment industry. And so it did better than we thought it would. And, you know, now we're gearing up to do a feature film, KTown Cowboys. Brand new story. Crazier cameos, and it's gonna be a fun. And I wrote it, and
wow. So you wrote the screenplay for this? So it's all done, and is it just ready to be produced now?
we're ready to, you know, go through pre-production real soon.
So what are the steps involved now to get it kind of out there?
Well, I mean, you know, we got to get the locations, we got to finish up the casting, make sure that all the equipment, you know, what kind of camera we really want to shoot it on, you know, and then from there, we shoot, and then the post-production is going to take forever. And then, so, I mean, when it comes out, it really depends on what route we take it. If a studio distribution company picks it up right away, then it's going to be right away. Or we might just do the film festival route. We're really kind of just, you know, weighing our options. Can
you give us a little preview of what might be part of the film? I mean, is it going to be similar to the KTown Cowboys? Is it going to be something a little bit different with the same cast?
The cast is going to be pretty, except for the exception of the guy in the webisode series, somebody came to visit. So this is kind of a prequel, but not really. So the guy is not in the picture. It's the cousin that's there, and who used to be a group, you know, within the group. And it's really a story about a bunch of guys that have their own, you know, ordeals and problems, and they have to deal with growing up. You know what I mean? Like, you can't party and play forever.
And who do you play?
I play a character named Danny, who is a stand-up comedian.
Really?
Who's
That's
struggling.
so out of your realm.
I'm not creative, so I just like write kind of, you know, like based on my life. You know what I mean? And so, you know, it's really a story about, you know, a group of friends who do a lot of things. There's one guy that's a liquor store owner who's really a liquor store owner, you know what I mean? And there's one who's a musician, and one who's trying to be an actor, and one's trying to be a designer. But the job itself is not important, really. It's the idea of going, hey, we can't be these kind of idiot playboys, and you know what I mean, that try to like hit on girls all the time. And, you know what I mean? Like, we got to grow up. You know, we got to face the facts and be responsible. And the antics of us trying to get to that conclusion is what makes the movie.
As a comedian who's turning into a writer, may I also say director? Will you be directing this film?
I will not be directing this one.
Okay, so just a comedian turned writer. Do you find that that's kind of expansive for what you're doing going forward?
I think that's the next, you know, I mean, as a comedian, you write your own jokes, you know, whether it's in your head or on paper. And so now, you know, as a writer, there's a lot more things that are involved in terms of story arc and character arc, in terms of drama, in terms of comedy. You can't have like a bunch of funny scenes, you know, and then that wouldn't be a movie. That will just be, you know, just a sketch comedy show.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's a lot more education and a lot more like things that I need to, you know, learn, and that's what I'm trying to do. But obviously, it's a next step into expanding my skill sets.
Yeah.
Hey guys, check the spot, man. Gotta head out.
The witty and creative comedian and writer Danny Cho is a multifaceted entertainer who's still thirsty for more. He's endlessly taking on new challenges and projects, never stopping for a second to reach the top.
And what does comedy mean to you?
Comedy means pain plus time equals funny. You know, I think a lot of the greats, they take their pain of their life, of trauma. You know what I mean? One of the greatest of all time, Richard Pryor. You know what I mean? He is been through a lot. He went through a lot in his life. You know what I mean? You know, he fell asleep on a crack pipe and gave himself, you know, second-degree burns. You know, he had, you know, diseases, mental disease. You know, like his body took a toll on him, right? But at the end of the day, comedy is what he took all that, all those experiences, all that painful stuff, and he flipped it to make it funny. You know, for the people to laugh. You know, and I feel like, to me, the comics that I love are the people that really, really are vulnerable about their lives, about all the crazy stuff they've been through, all the pain and hardships, and they've kind of flipped it to make it funny. So, yeah.
Well, I hope that you don't have to go through a terrible, horrible experience like that to show how funny you are and to entertain audiences, but to be able to turn a negative into something that you can laugh about, and also, like you said earlier, you know, make it therapy for you. I think that's really brilliant.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I am brilliant.
Danny, if you had to give any aspiring comedians some advice about the business, about the craft itself, what would you say to them?
I would say, just because you're funny amongst your friends doesn't mean that you have chops to be a comedian. If you really want to be called a comedian, you should perform as much as you can, as often as you can. Have at least 50 shows under your belt before you can call yourself a comedian. You know what I mean? A stand-up comedian. Keep on writing, keep on, and even if it's like a joke that you say over and over again, like every single time, if you change it, you'll be able to, you know, hone it and, you know, always polish. And so just keep on getting on stage and keep on writing, you know, and I think people will, if you're good enough, people, you know, be like, oh, wow, this guy's funny, or this girl's funny.
Well, Danny, it's been really fun to interview you, and I know I've laughed a lot during this interview, and one thing that I can really say about having talked to you is that, you know, you're really real. Like, you're kind of a genuine guy who just is who he is, and I respect that you're not just trying to be something just for people's sake, but that you are who you are, and you're making this career really work for you, and I'm really proud of you as a, you know, Korean American to see someone who's pursuing his dreams and following his heart. I'm being serious.
Thank you. No,
seriously.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know what? You know, honestly, like, I know I do a lot of these interviews and stuff, and at the end of the day, like, even if I don't get famous, if I don't make money or whatever, if I die knowing that I was being righteous, not like godly or whatever, but being honestly me, then there's no, I have no regrets, you know, and I feel like, you know, that's how everyone should live, really, you know, and whatever they do. And so, thank you for saying that, because most people think, you know, I'm kind of a clown or whatever, but, you know, I'm really serious. I'm not that funny. I don't know if this should really go out on air. You know what I mean? What if this is the worst show?
I think I'm laughing too much. I'm trying to be really professional and not like laugh every time you say something. But you know, what can I say?
Is that the words or the face? What is it?
It's the whole package.
You said I'm ugly twice in this interview.
You said you're ugly like several times.
Yeah, but I can say that, but you can't.
I didn't say you're ugly. I just used
you're
other ways.
You're the antithesis of good-looking. All right, whatever.
Thank you so much for being on my show. It's been a pleasure.